Hello students, Michael Sanchez, violin teacher here. Hope you guys are having a good evening. Today we're going to be teaching you guys how to do vibrato and improve some different things that you guys might not have known before. So just to give you guys some feedback on who I am, I'm Michael Sanchez and I've been playing violin for 25 years. I've been teaching violin full-time for about 5. And I run violintutorpro.com where we teach students how to play the violin and superior violins as well. So today we're going to be talking just about some different things. If you guys want to take some notes, we're going to give you guys 3 main topics regarding optimization of vibrato. And hopefully by the end of today you guys are going to feel very confident about how to achieve the best wave of motion and just some different things you guys should be practicing. All right, well let's get right to it. So basically the first thing that I want you guys to do is grab your instrument and just try to kind of visualize, how your vibrato should be. So a lot of people, when they first start doing vibrato, they tend to kind of just have this idea of a lot of tension in their hand. A lot of things just don't quite work right. They have a lot of tension in their arm. So what we're going to kind of try to minimize today is just all those bad habits you might be having. So what I want you guys to do is just try to visualize exactly what you guys want the vibrato to look like. And then take your violin away from you and just try to do the same thing with no violin, no instrument. Okay? Now notice that my arm is actually working all as one. A lot of students, when they first start doing vibrato, they tend to use too much of the wrist, too much of the fingers. Some people actually think there's finger vibrato, which is incorrect. So notice that my whole arm, my forearm is working as a system. There is such thing as wrist vibrato, which basically is not using so much forearm, but using more wrist. So it's kind of one or the other that you learn, but the biggest thing is that you want to be consistent. You want to be able to move the same way every time. By the way, this is my cat in the background. It's a snowflake. You guys like cats? He's a doll-faced Persian kitten. So she obviously likes to hang out with me. Okay, so biggest thing is just trying to really make sure you guys are consistent. So go ahead and just don't have any instrument. You just try to do exactly what I'm doing right here. It's a very similar concept as if you were to shake somebody's hand. So if you shake somebody's hand, there's no need to move your wrist. There's no need to use your fingers. That would be weird. You're moving everything together as one. Right, Snowflake? So it's just a matter of what you want to do as far as the forearm vibrato versus the wrist vibrato. So I'll be taking some questions. So if you guys are on the events page, feel free to ask your questions there. You can access the events page through violintutorpro.com/classroom. It's right in the navigation bar. It's an easy way to access the events page. And I'll take some questions here soon on that. Okay, so once you figure out, okay, which one am I going to really focus on, either the forearm vibrato or the wrist vibrato, then it's all about trying to get that consistent motion. So the first tip is definitely has to do with consistency, making sure that your vibrato is consistent. Okay, now when I actually put my instrument up to my chin, there's no difference in what I'm doing. That's funny. Let me go ahead and mute Brian here as I keep going, but my cat is being very funny right now. Okay, actually there's a video on Facebook, I don't know if you guys saw it, but there's this lady playing violin, and then there's like a parakeet that landed on her head, and it got like 200,000 views or something like that, so maybe this will be one of those videos. Okay, so we just did this, right, with no instrument. Now let's go ahead and put the violin into our hands and do the same exact thing. You notice how my forearm was still moving the same way? If I was doing wrist vibrato, it'd be the same thing as if I didn't have the instrument in my hand. So this is wrist vibrato, same exact thing. So actually having the instrument in your hand is not going to make a difference, or shouldn't make a difference in what you're doing. A lot of people think that, as they're doing vibrato, there's a difference in pressure or effort, and that's just not the case. The same exact thing as if you were to not have an instrument in your hand. Okay, the next thing I want to really focus on is for you guys to understand how important it is to have flexible muscles from the knuckles down. Okay, most students, what happens is they grab the instrument too tight when they're playing. Let's say they have a first finger, then they have a third finger. They're putting too much pressure down with that finger, causing too much tension in the hand from the knuckles down. This right here, this should be very loose when you're doing vibrato, okay? But if you're pressing and you're causing tension, then all of this is tense and not relaxed, to where you're not going to be able to move your hand as well. It's very important to have this as flexible as possible. Okay? So very loose. What I actually do to really demonstrate this is I'll have a student grab my hand as they want from the knuckles down. I can find every note on the violin with just my fingers. Okay, there's no need to ever use effort in the hand from the knuckles down. When I start doing it, let's say if my hand's low when I'm starting, and I'm going from, say, a first finger on the E string to G4. So I start here, then I kind of reach over, I'm doing this, right? When I do that, when I'm doing that effort from 1 to 4, my hand is getting tense because of that effort that I have to reach over. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to make you guys have a higher hand so that you can just place the 1 and the 4 with just your fingers and limit all of the muscles from here down. Okay? So go ahead and just have somebody grab your hand when you're playing violin from here on down and see if you can play. I don't actually have somebody to hold my hand for me, but you would basically see that I could play the exact same because there's no need to use anything here when I'm actually finding notes. So my recommendation would be for you guys to really focus on getting the hand high, because it's going to really help your vibrato. Hope that makes sense. Cool. So good left hand placement is very important. Having the hand relax is very important. Once you get in that state, you're going to actually be able to do this consistent motion and actually get a good, solid, consistent vibrato. Okay, now if my hand was tense, so let's say I place that third finger, so I really press down probably too hard, then I'd get more like this. Right? So we have to make sure we're relaxed in the right hand. We're also setting ourselves up properly in the left hand. It's very important. Let me mute somebody here. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just take some questions. I'm going to hop over to the events page right now, so you guys can feel free to ask anything you like. So if you go to violintutorpro.com, we totally redid the homepage, so it looks really nice. You guys can see everything that's going on our site, as well as the latest live class recording. We have all our upcoming classes on the right side of the page, so definitely check that out. I'm going to go to live classes, and then I'm going to enter the events page for this particular class that we're in right now. So if you guys can do that, I'll be able to take your questions right live on this page. Some of you guys are streaming the class live right now, which is great. So let me go ahead and just take some questions. Make sure when you guys are in the live class, just make sure you're muted. That'd be great. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go back to the events page and just see if there's any questions from you guys. Everybody looks like they're just saying that they're here right now. We have about 45 people viewing, so welcome. Any of you guys that are brand new to Violin Tutor Pro, I'm the owner of the site. My name is Michael Sanchez, and more than happy to help you guys out as far as learning the violin. So yeah, maybe now that you guys know about the events page, feel free to come back to this here soon, and I'll be able to take your questions. All right, let me go back to the actual class and give you guys some more tips. All right, so yeah, here's my cat. So a lot of you guys probably seen her kind of hanging out. So this is Snowflake. She's only 4 months old. All right, so let's get back to some more tips on the violin. So doing vibrato. For those of you guys that are trying to get into the live class that might not be able to, that's because it is full right now, but hopefully you guys can still stream the class. Okay, so making sure that the hand is high, very important. Understanding that vibrato is just like shaking somebody's hand. We're trying to develop consistency, very important. The next tip that I want to give you guys is understanding the importance of how we press down onto the fingerboard. Basically, we're trying to limit that same concept of the tension in the hand. So a lot of people, when they put fingers down the violin, they tend to think they need to press down as hard as possible, and that's actually going to cause a lot of problems with vibrato. So what we want to do is we want to actually aim for our pressure to be as close as you can get to the nail without actually using the nail. That's the hardest part of the skin, and that's going to allow us to not have to press down as hard if we aim our finger right on the edge of the string, right before the nail. Okay? This is going to make it to where we only have to press down about this hard when we're playing the violin instead of this hard, right? This sort of pressure causes hand tension, which causes you to have trouble with vibrato. Okay, so if you guys really want to get a good vibrato, we have to focus on is just limiting the pressure of placing your fingers down. Okay, so if I have a first finger to a third finger, don't overpress with the third finger. Try to use the very edge of the string, the very tip of the finger, and try to practice limiting the amount of pressure that you're putting into the fingerboard. So what I suggest is working on a scale. Any scale, you can work on anything. And just try to work on limiting pressure, which is going to really help your vibrato. Like that. Eventually, obviously, you could practice the scale with vibrato with focusing on the tips of the fingers. Man, you're being this funny today. You know we're doing a live class. Mascot. Okay, so to be able to get that limited pressure in the hand, which is going to really be important, hopefully you guys work on the tips of the fingers. Anybody that's here in the live class, feel free to ask a question. You guys can actually text questions over. Also, if you want to ask an audio question, if you want me to unmute you, that's also on the table. Just let me know in the chat if you're interested in an audio question. Let me just go back to the events page and see if I find anybody else asking questions. We're here to help you guys out and give you guys as many tips as possible. I know vibrato is one of those things that people just really struggle with, and I've had taught hundreds of students over the years, and a lot of them just kind of almost give up on it because they struggle with it so much. So hopefully after today, you guys will feel more confident. Elizabeth asks, how do you make sure your hand is not tense? Very good question. I'll go back and answer that one a bit more. Okay, so basically, you know, there's a lot of things that can be villains of vibrato. So, you know, the biggest one is, you know, tension, but there's different ways you can get tension. So a lot of people, when they play, they're very tense in here. A lot of that can be caused by reaching to different notes. So like if you're trying to get your hand high, but you're actually doing it more from the arm, that's going to cause trouble with vibrato. So make sure that as you guys are setting up your left hand, that you're doing it in a way where you're not using your arm. Okay? What I recommend is doing 4 steps. And I give a lot of my students the same tips as far as the 4 steps, but I'll mention it again. So put your thumb in this position, about an inch away from the fingerboard. Then have your hand be this far back, right by the nut. Make sure your hand is this high when you're playing, and then turn. Okay? Then just let your fingers fall. Okay? Now, if you did that properly, you basically are making it to where you don't have to use any of your arm to get high to be able to achieve a good vibrato. Okay? Thumb, hand back, hand high, turn, fall. So now my fingers are at the proper angle. I'm able to hit a first finger on the E string as well as a fourth finger on the G without having to reach for notes. Okay? So I'm in a position right now where I can play the violin without relying any bit on my arm and any bit on my hand. Okay? Now if you're able to do that, if you're literally only using your fingers to find notes, okay, that's when you're actually going to get a good vibrato. When you're tense, when everything is not working like it should, that's when it's impossible for it to move properly, for it to do this, right? See how flexible and loose my hand is? And this is not something that only, you know, people that are under a certain age can do properly. A misconception that I hear quite a bit is that if you're over a certain age, you can't actually achieve a good vibrato. And that's just not true. You know, if you can shake somebody's hand, if you can, you know, use your fingers like this, then you're able to do vibrato just like anybody else. It's just a matter of setting yourself up in the proper position. Okay, so make sure you guys are doing the 4 steps: thumb, back, high, turn, fall. Okay. Then put a finger down right on the tip of the string. Make sure you guys are not hogging the string, right on the edge. Okay. Once you're in that position, then you guys can actually start to try to get this motion going. Okay. What I recommend is that you guys do 4 waves in one bow. A wave would be an actual movement of the vibrato. Okay. Obviously, if you guys are just starting vibrato, this would be challenging, but this would be kind of the ultimate starting point as far as the way the vibrato could sound. With that, eventually, when it starts to become more comfortable, that's when you can actually start to speed it up, maybe do 8 for bow. With that, and try to be very articulate with how that's being set up and being consistent. Try not to miss the very last one. That's also a really bad habit. Okay, eventually it's going to sound more like this when you speed it up. With that, eventually it will be even faster, but most of you guys maybe aren't quite there yet. I just did 32. And then if I speed up my bow, but because I'm working on it in a way where it's organized, that's when you're actually going to get that really solid, consistent vibrato that's not going to be all kind of jagged throughout. So that's going to turn into so I could not have done that if my hand was any bit tense in here throughout. Obviously, I was putting fingers down. That's where you guys can get into trouble if you guys are placing fingers improperly or the hand isn't high enough. Hope that makes sense. All right, let me take some questions. Eric says, for me, it's very hard to do vibrato with the 4th finger. Is it possible that the hand position should be a little bit changed in this position? Good question. So really the concepts are the same, but as I'm putting down a 4th finger, there shouldn't be any extra effort to be able to place that finger. But what a lot of students do is as they're placing the 4, there's some sort of extra effort to be able to put the 4th finger down. And that's why they struggle more to be able to get a good vibrato out of the 4. So obviously you guys are probably more comfortable with a 2nd finger or 3rd finger. You're probably able to be more relaxed as you're placing the 3. But maybe you're tense when you're placing the 4. But ultimately, if you're in the right position with the hand being high, the 4 is going to be flatter, should be a little bit curved. But ultimately, you should be able to do the same exact thing with the 4. Obviously, it's more challenging to do that. But try to focus on the very edge of the string, using the very tip of the finger right before the nail. And nothing changes as far as the hand still has to be just as relaxed, which is harder to do with a 4. So here's my 4th finger vibrato. challenging to do, say, a 1 to a 4, because there's that whole thing I was talking to you guys about coming in and out, about adding tension because of a combination of fingers. That's why it's harder as you do like an advanced piece. You know, it's harder maybe to get a really good vibrato out of a certain note, maybe because you're really tense from all the different finger combinations, right? So you have to, as you're landing on a piece or any note, you have to really be paying attention to minimal pressure, and that's harder with the 4, right? So, but if I was tense in the 4, does this sound familiar or look familiar? Is that probably what's happening? Instead of, so the difference is right here. This is relaxed. Hope that makes sense. All right, any other questions? Let's see what else we can find here. So I'm going to go back to the events page and to see if there's anybody else that has something they're wondering about. Refresh the page. I see a lot of new faces tonight, people. Thank you so much for joining us. We're doing these classes every Wednesday night at 9 for more intermediate level. So hopefully you guys join us next week if you liked what you heard today. Also, this will be posted on YouTube. You'll be able to find it through the events page as well. So if you go to violintutorpro.com and you go to live classes, I'll be putting a video right in there after this class is done. So you guys will be able to see the class right there. You scroll a bit. Here's some of the classes I did last week. All right, let's see if there's any other questions. How early should you start learning vibrato? I'm a beginner and I don't know if I should start learning now or wait. From Shay. Thank you, Shay. Let's go back to my teaching screen here. Okay, so when you should learn vibrato, this is a really good question. So when I teach private lessons, I get some people that, you know, they're taking lessons for, you know, a week or two, and they're like, when do I learn vibrato? When do I learn? And there's students that are more like, I don't even want to touch it. I want to deal with it until, like, you know, I feel like I can actually play. So there's like people that are really timid, and there's people that are like so anxious they can't help themselves. Really, when it comes down to it, it's not time. It's actually fundamentals. That's what it's all about. So I've actually had students that I've developed a really good vibrato with after, I would say, 2 or 3 months. That would be record timing. So basically the student followed everything that I said regarding left-hand fundamentals and technique. They might have had a music background, so they're, you know, have kind of a natural ability. But that doesn't have to be everybody. I mean, it's just a matter of good fundamentals, everything that we've talked about tonight. So for example, if you're used to having your hand always this low, you never have your knuckles high, and you're trying to play the violin, I don't care if you've been playing for 2 months or 10 years, you're not ready for vibrato. You have to have proper fundamentals. So it's all about, once you're in this position and you're comfortable, being able to find notes here, as well as maybe having a good right hand technique, not forcing to be higher with your hand, with the arm. Just everything that we've talked about today. If you're able to do that, really you can do vibrato. If you're not able to get a good vibrato, then there's something going wrong with tension. You know, for example, you might be high with the hand, but you're just grabbing too tight, right? And then you're just really not able to move. So yeah, once you guys have actually done some of these things, it really doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how long you've been playing for, it's really just a matter of practice. Now, let's say that some of the things that I've talked about, you guys have developed some really bad habits with. That's when it can be somewhat challenging, because if you've been doing something the same way for years, that's actually more challenging for me to teach somebody how to do vibrato when they have a really bad habit than somebody that's never played before, doesn't have any experience. I'd rather have somebody brand new that doesn't know anything than somebody that has a really bad habit with left-hand technique. I hope that's not discouraging for some of you guys. I just would really pay attention to some of those things and maybe work on them. So for example, if you have a bad habit of really pressing hard with your 3 or 4, try to work on scales, try to work on practicing placing lightly. You know, try to, if you, let's say your hand is real, try to work on a scale. Anything that you're struggling with, you know, try to break it down with scales. That's really where you're going to get the best bang for your buck as far as time. Is just try to really break down the technique that you're trying to fix. So my fingers are on this angle. I get often where students play and they come in and out. So like what I'll tell them is that their finger angles are like this instead of being like this. It's a really bad habit. Okay? So if I'm placing my notes like this, okay, do you guys see the low one positions here, right? This is a low one on the violin. If my angles are like this, to find a low one, you guys see how I have to unnaturally come back with my finger? Okay? What it should be is it should be like this, and then I'm just squeezing my finger back. Okay? I know this might not seem like a big deal from this point to this point, but that's crucial in being able to do vibrato. So maybe take a snapshot of your hands from this perspective. Okay? If you're like this more as you're playing notes, you need to try to improve to get to this point. Okay? Because what's going to happen is you're going to have low ones in the violin, then you're going to have a fourth finger, then you're going to have a three, there's going to be all these different combinations, and if you're having to come in and out, that's where you're not going to be able to get that hand to be relaxed. All right, let me see if I can find some more questions. Let me go to the events page here. You guys have been really shy about questions tonight. That's okay. This is one of our first classes we've done in a while. We used to do Google Hangouts back in 2013, and we just started doing them again. So hopefully you guys are excited about these classes, and we're going to be doing them regularly. There's actually a class this Saturday we're doing, giving away a prize for students that show up. And then next Monday is our beginner class at 8 o'clock. So we're going to kind of do that rotation. Beginner class Monday at 8, intermediate Wednesday at 9. So, all right, let's see if I can find anything. William asks, hi, when practicing vibrato, is playing scales the best way to practice it? Absolutely. Anything that you can break down and just be as simple as possible without doing too much is a great way to practice. Susan asks, I find that my thumb doesn't vibrate with my fingers and it sticks to the violin neck, hampering movement. Any suggestions? Very good question. Let me go back and kind of give you guys some tips on that. While my cat is trying to not let me go behind me. Okay, so yeah, as far as the thumb, so a lot of people ask me about, you know, what should my thumb be doing when I do vibrato? Should it be high? Should it be low? Should it be here? Should it be there? The biggest thing with the thumb is that it's actually serving more as purpose for shifting, as being able to know where we're at on the fingerboard, know exactly where to come back to, where to go to. It's not really going to help us as much with anything vibrato related, although if we're going to grab the fingerboard too tight with the thumb in the hand, that's going to cause a bad habit. That's going to make it hard to move. So my biggest thing I would say is make sure you're not pressing too much here. Have the hand touching the fingerboard, the thumb, kind of a really light clamp where you can easily move up and down for shifting. Okay? It doesn't matter so much about the height of the thumb. I think it's more important the position of the thumb in relation to the nut. It's going to help you know where you're at for shifting. Good question. So yeah, as I do vibrato, my thumb is actually moving slightly. So let me just show you from this angle. I don't know how my thumb looks. So it's obviously not doing this, right? It's not moving. Think of it more kind of like a rocking chair. It's not totally still, but it's really not shifting locations, right? He's being bad tonight. Cool. All right. So hopefully that helps as far as what the thumb does during vibrato. All right. Anybody else have any questions? So maybe as you guys are coming up with some questions, I'm just going to give you guys a quick tour of the website. Let's kind of show you what's going on, what's new, and how it can help you. So Violin Tutor Pro, we've been working really hard on providing a way for you guys to really get encouraged and motivated to play and get great tips. But I encourage you guys to check out the homepage. It's going to be kind of your snapshot of what's going on. You guys can see on the left side we have really great blog articles. I've written most of these blog articles. For example, vibrato tips, 3 steps to a beautiful vibrato. It's a really good blog article I wrote. I sorted it into categories, so like we have, health and violin, things related to, like storing your instrument, ways to prevent cracks, of your violin, stuff like that. So yeah, we have a bunch of blog articles on the left. Everything you see in the middle is just newest videos we have on the site, so you guys can always check that out. Towards the right, we have the newest class video, upcoming classes. And then what's cool is that we also have an area where you guys can see the most recent posts from our community. So for example, you can see the user, what they posted. You can kind of browse to see what the question is, or see some different answers from the community. So yeah, it's kind of a nice way to see what's going on with the forum. I have all the recent replies here. Diane Atkins is actually a violin instructor, and she posts in here all the time. So if you guys just, oh wow, she posted something really long today. That's great. So just giving different tips on the violin. Other people post cool things. So yeah, that's kind of the homepage. The lessons page, obviously self-explanatory. I have all my videos that you guys can watch through there. Challenges are going to be different things that you guys can actually do to improve your skills in various areas. For example, I actually have a vibrato challenge where I've compiled different videos and different things that I would want you guys to do to improve your vibrato. I'll go ahead and post this in the events page for you guys. So yeah, basically it's going to cover different blog articles, different videos, teach you maybe things that you didn't hear tonight even, how to practice vibrato. So working on it 5 minutes a day, and I give some tips about that. So yeah, these are basically the challenges, so I would highly recommend this vibrato challenge. Live classes is kind of where we've been hanging out today. The blog, self-explanatory, the forum, we showed you a little bit of that. We also have a community area, which hasn't always worked perfectly since it's a brand new thing. But basically the concept is you guys can see posts from our community, just like Facebook. You can like each other's pages, get to know others. It's pretty neat. It's just like being on Facebook, only everybody plays violin and loves violin, so it's cool. Awesome. All right, let me see if I can find any other questions. Lee Thompson, how long do you recommend practicing just vibrato during a practice session? Great question. Go back to answer that. Okay, so yeah, basically, I would recommend that you guys practice vibrato for about 5 minutes before actually playing anything. So maybe just working on the movement of the hand, working on maybe just a basic scale, trying to really just get a consistent motion. Anything that you work on the violin that you're trying to develop takes time and muscle memory. So it depends on what level you're at, but it could just be no instrument, just trying to achieve proper hand position, achieve proper placement of the fingers, and just doing a scale without actually doing a scale, right? So first finger, second finger, third finger, so on. So you can do that without actually playing. If you're more advanced, this would be a good way to practice vibrato. Or maybe combining different slur patterns. Like that. So I would say do that for, say, 5 minutes if you're going to practice for like a half hour. Then focus maybe less on vibrato, maybe more on your scales. Then maybe focus more on intonation and rhythm in the second third of your practice. In the final third, I would suggest practicing more your performance piece, thinking less about technique. And I do illustrate that quite clearly in that vibrato challenge, so you guys can definitely check that out. All right, cool. Let's see if I find any other questions. Anybody here want to raise their hand if they want to say something, like, you know, question about vibrato or the site or anything? Feel free to raise your hands. Maybe you could also tell us where you're from and how long you've been playing for. Feel free to raise if you like. Otherwise, maybe we have some shyness going on. That's no problem. Go to the events area here. All right. 1 second. We're all here to help each other out, so no need to be shy in the future. Brian says, I just started the vibrato challenge on Sunday. Great. Glad to hear that. Find any other questions? Meg asks, what is the actual movement close up? Great question. Let me get back. Show you guys that. Okay, so yeah, basically, so we have our third finger, say, right on the edge of the string. We have our thumb placed and we have our hand high. So we're just basically trying to go back and forth. And we're letting our knuckle kind of flex, right? We never want to do that. We never want our finger to do that. We're just letting our hand flex. One thing that I show for people that really understand this is when you're actually doing vibrato, try to watch your hand right here while you're doing vibrato and watch it come directly at you. Okay? Never let your hand open up as you're doing vibrato. Okay, so let me show you how this looks. So don't let your vibrato, your hand open. You want your hand to come directly at you. Hard to see from that angle. But yeah, you get the point. So try to just focus in on right here, directly at you, and then out. Hope that helps. See maybe some different angles. Notice my wrist isn't really doing much because I'm doing a forearm vibrato. If you were doing more of a wrist vibrato, it would be more like this. So forearm vibrato, wrist vibrato. My theory, this would probably be a question of you guys. So you're probably wondering, you know, which one do I do? Do I do wrist vibrato or do I do forearm vibrato? The biggest thing is doing whatever is going to be consistent. But I kind of give my analogy. I emphasize more forearm vibrato for this reason. So if you guys were to play mini golf, I'm sure at some point you guys played miniature golf. So you have your club. You know, some of you guys have actually played real golf. So you wouldn't grab the club way down here and try to putt your shot, right? You know, bend your back way over and try to putt where the handle is or whatever. You grab it here, and then you have this consistent motion of the putt. Try to hit the ball in the hole. Okay? I think it's the same concept. So this is a lot easier to be consistent than this. That's my theory. But some of the best violinists in the world have a wrist vibrato, so I don't mean to discourage you if you've already learned it that way. But that's just my theory. So when I teach a student for the first time, I kind of tell them that. It's a lot easier to be consistent, in my opinion, when you're doing a forearm vibrato. It is, I think, harder for some people, but it's much more consistent, I think. But the biggest thing that every violin teacher would agree on is that you should never be doing finger vibrato. Finger vibrato is basically where you're trying to kind of change what you're doing in your finger to actually make a certain wave. So, you know, I can't even do it. I'd feel horrible doing it. But the concept is the fingers are moving because the forearm is moving and because the wrist is moving. It's not actually moving by itself. That's kind of a cheat, but it's technically a very bad habit. So some of you guys might be thinking that that's kind of the way to do it, but that's unfortunately the wrong way. So hope that makes sense. All right, see if I can find any other questions. We're going to be going for another 5-10 minutes here, and then we'll be shutting down. So if you guys have anything, feel free to ask. All right, back to the community area. So yeah, maybe also if you guys just want to tell us like how long you've been playing for and where you're from, that'd be cool to hear from some of you. A lot of you guys are new, I believe, to the Hangouts and to this concept, so we'd love to hear from you. You can post in the events area if you'd like. All right, let's see what else we got here. William says, I've seen Sarah Chang use finger vibrato. It's not for me. It says, wish I had asked a question. I found it very helpful. Feel free to still ask a question, Melissa. I just read your post there. Don says, is it hard to maintain intonation with vibrato? Go back and answer that. Okay, so intonation should actually have nothing to do with the vibrato itself, because once you place the finger down, the finger actually just rocks from that location. It should never slide. If it slid, then you'd be talking intonation changing. For those of you guys who don't know what intonation means, it's basically the finding of the pitches, finding of the exact placement of the fingers. So yeah, if you're finding yourself sliding into a note, then that's definitely incorrect. There should be only rocking going on. So it's like once you get into that position, that's when you start to move, but it should not change the actual intonation. So I found my spot. No need to slide from that spot. The nice thing about vibrato is that it kind of covers up intonation mistakes. So if you play a second finger and you don't do any vibrato, you better be just perfectly in the right spot. Otherwise, you're gonna just maybe slightly be off with your intonation. But if you do vibrato, now it kind of, you could just be a little bit off here, a little bit off there, and the vibrato would kind of cover that up. That's another reason why vibrato is such a great thing to learn, is that it kind of helps your intonation. So if I'm doing a scale, let's say I was a little bit off of my G. Yes, here that's a little flat. Okay, and now if I did vibrato, you hear how it kind of sounds a little bit better than it did before. So that's kind of the other reason for it. Obviously, the biggest reason is that it sounds beautiful if you do it right. But it also helps your intonation. Elizabeth says, may I ask a verbal question? Absolutely. Let me, oh, actually, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I actually am in college at the moment in Winston-Salem. I go to Salem College. I'm a first year. I've been playing since 5th grade. And when you're doing vibrato, when you shift, does it change at all in the hand motions when you're doing it with your wrist?
So you're just kind of wondering, okay, what happens when I shift? Does anything change, or is anything different? Okay, yeah, great question. Okay, so the simple answer is nothing changes. The only thing that changes is technically your hand is up higher when you shift. But as far as all the concepts of the hand being relaxed, the hand being, your thumb being in the right position, the hand being high, everything's the same. So yeah, it's, if you were more advanced, if you guys knew how to shift, and some of you guys might, you could practice this concept, going from first position to third, trying to do vibrato, but there shouldn't be anything that changes. The height of the hand stays the same, all the above. So to practice. So make sure you're not grabbing too tight. That's a bad habit. You have to be able to move. But yeah, everything else stays the same. Does that answer your question?
It does, because I've been having that question off the top of my head, and one of the things that I've been noticing when I've been doing vibrato is I feel like my wrist is getting a little tense, and I wanted to know how we do vibrato without tension in your wrist.
Sure. Yeah, if you want to play something now or later, that would definitely give me a really good insight to what's going on. But yeah, there could be just something happening as you're shifting that's making the whole tension thing change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely easier to be relaxed in first position. It's kind of the concept as you're playing even really high. It's really hard to keep a relaxed hand as you're way up in 7+ positions. It really takes you having proper technique of how you're placing the finger down. So right here, I'm in a really high position, right? My hand is really relaxed. But I could easily think, oh my gosh, I got this high note. Oh my goodness. And then all of a sudden my hand is really tense. Now I can't do vibrato because my hand is not going to move, right? Same concept. Maybe you guys struggle with that in third because it's a new position. So really, I would say the latest position that you've learned, you're probably going to have trouble with vibrato because it's kind of this thing you don't really know how to do yet, right? You're going to be kind of timid in that position. How high have you gone?
I've only done third as my highest right now because I'm still getting introduced to classical music. I've never done classical. So third is the highest my teacher has put me on.
Sure.
And I've been having difficulty doing third position, fourth finger.
Sure. That would make total sense. So yeah, eventually, let's say, yeah, you eventually you learn fifth position, then you learn seventh. It's going to seem a lot easier to do it in third, and then really easy in first. So I would just say it's probably because it's a newer position. That's why you're struggling with it. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense what we taught you tonight as far as the fundamentals of it. The reason for it is that you're not letting your hand be relaxed yet.
Oh yeah, this makes total sense to me. Like, I'm actually getting light bulbs. I'm actually understanding.
That's a good thing. Well, for some of you guys that don't know me, I've been teaching full time for 5 years, and at one point I actually had 80 private students that I taught every week. So literally my job was just teaching. I would teach Monday through Sunday, at least 5 hours a day, and I had a lot of beginner, intermediates, advanced. I just love teaching, and I've seen just about everything. So every student at some point tried to learn vibrato, and so yeah, I'm here to help you guys out. Everybody, if you feel like there's something that you just can't get over or you're having trouble with, there's no chance I haven't heard it before. So if you guys ever need help, for example, like I'm too old to do vibrato, or my arthritis is limiting me, or whatever, just let me know. Any other questions? Thanks, Elizabeth, for the audio question. I appreciate that. It takes some nerve to be the first one. Yeah, a couple years ago we were doing these hangouts, and yeah, like it was crazy. I mean, everybody got to know each other, and it's like I couldn't have everybody. Everybody didn't have enough time to talk. It's like everybody wanted to, ask questions and stuff. So eventually, I'm sure we'll get there. Actually, one person that's here right now, Eric, he used to be in those hangouts. Thanks for joining us, Eric. And everybody else that's here that's new, welcome, and hopefully you'll join us next week for the next class. Next week we're going to be doing another vibrato class. I'm going to kind of go more into detail of some of the things that I think are really important, kind of more, a little bit more advanced. So, all right, let's see what else I can find in the community area here. So we'll go another few minutes, and then we'll be done. I'll probably still hang out with you people that are here live. See, Jocelyn. Hey, Jocelyn Hewitt. I know Jocelyn. Jocelyn asks, isn't the vibration supposed to be from the note and slightly flat, not sharp? Jocelyn, I'd say no. I mean, I'd say the biggest thing is just being within a range. You know, obviously, yeah, if you're, let's say the note is here. So I wouldn't try to start flat, because that's, I mean, you don't want to build a bad habit of trying to find a flat note, right? You want to get in the habit of finding an in-tune note. You want to have that muscle memory down perfect. You want to know exactly where that's at. So yeah, you don't want to have this in-between mode. So I would say no. I would practice playing in tune and then doing vibrato from that intonation. Good question. Obviously, you have different notes. Like, for example, like here's a C sharp and the A. So here's a C natural. So you're going to vibrato, you know, different notes in the violin. But you want to get in the habit of knowing exactly where each note is. And being that it's a fretless instrument, obviously we have to be very accurate, and it takes practice. So raise your hand here in the live class if you guys have worked on chromatic scales. You guys have ever worked on a chromatic scale? No? Okay. 1, 2, okay. So a chromatic scale is basically where you're playing every single note on the violin. So how many, this should be more hands. How many of you guys have gone to a piano and played every single note all the way up, all the way down? Are you done that, right? Okay. So basically it's the same concept on a violin. You can do the same thing on a violin. And that's a really good thing to practice. So I'm going to do it right now and show you. But what you're going to notice is that I'm not sliding into the notes. I'm not going bum. I'm going, I want to go ba bum. I want to get that separation to know exactly where each note is. So here's a chromatic scale. Let me get a better angle maybe so you guys can see. Eventually. So that's really good practice. So because violin's all about muscle memory, you want to know exactly where these notes are. So can you guys just know where a C natural is? Where's a C natural? Right there. I know exactly where that is because I practice my scales. Okay? If I didn't practice my scales, I would be here one time, and I'd be here another time, and then I might be here. So scales is so vital to the success of a violinist. Okay? So I know exactly where my 1 is. Notice that my thumb is even with my 1. So I actually can find my 1 almost every time because it's even with my thumb. So that's really important. So if your thumb's here sometimes and it's here sometimes, like how do you really know where to start? So make sure your thumb is always consistent. Even put a sticker here for some of you guys that are just starting this concept. Okay? So I know where my 1 is. If I know where my 1 is, then I can feel where my 2 is. If I know where my 2 is, I know where my 3 is. And then my 4. Okay? Eventually, when you start to practice enough scales, you know from where the 3 is based on the feel from the thumb. And the 4. Okay? But there's a system behind this. So how many of you guys know what a capo is? A capo. Guitar capo? Okay. A guitar capo is basically this clamp that goes on the instrument that can go anywhere, right? On the guitar. Okay? You can go anywhere. I don't play guitar. I'm very bad at it. But I know what a capo is. Okay? So basically your thumb and your index finger is the violinist's capo. Okay? once you really understand that and you really, like, that's ingrained in you, you're going to start being more in tune. Because a capo, no matter what happens, if I clamp it here, it's going to do the same thing. If I put my thumb and my index here, my intonation is going to be the same. Okay? If I put my thumb here and my index there, now all of a sudden I don't know where I'm at. So try to get in the habit of thumb, just like we talked about earlier, thumb, hand back, hand high, turn, drop. Okay? See where my thumb is? I know where to put my index finger. I know where to put my 2, my 3, my 4. There's a lot of structure to playing the violin, more than you might think, even though it's fretless. Okay? Raise your hand if that makes sense. All right. Yes. Everybody. Sweet. All right, let's see if there's any other questions. I'll take one more question. We have so many viewers, though. I don't know if I want to say goodbye. We have, looks like 35 viewers. That's really great. Seems to be going up as the class has gone on here. All right, let me refresh the page to view the events page. All right. See what we can find here. William says, capo is a guitar cheater tool. So the thumb and the index is the cheater tool of the violinist. Elizabeth says, does vibrato affect triads and seventh chords? Maybe you can elaborate on that, Elizabeth, so I understand that question. Brian, I think I've been not getting my knuckles high enough. I've heard and taught lots of students about the knuckles up. Don said there's more, looking forward to it. Yes, next week, Wednesday at 9. A lot of you guys got the email from me. So how you guys can sign up for the next class is you visit violintutorpro.com. You can search it on Google. I've tried to make this really easy for you guys. So you just scroll down a bit, and there's upcoming classes. I actually put today's or next week's class on the homepage already. I'll put it in the events page right now, the link. So you guys can sign up for next week's class. But it also was in the email that was sent out, and you can easily access it from the homepage. So there's next week's class. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, so we've got a lot of people posting questions. That's great. Got a lot of interested people that play, looks like. Faith says, thank you for answering my question. I think I'll start learning now. Great. Thanks everybody for posting their questions tonight. Didn't see a lot more. So I answered most of them, so that's good. Okay, so let me just end with a conclusion, and then I'll open it up to just anybody that wants to hang out and stay here and ask any questions. So yeah, my conclusion would be that vibrato is a very important thing to work on. So some of you guys that are just starting it, don't get discouraged with it. Keep working on it. Very crucial. But hopefully after today, you guys understand what needs to be done to be able to work on it. So start implementing it in the beginning of your practice sessions, and don't let yourself get discouraged. This takes time, but eventually, hopefully, you guys will get it, and then you can tell us all in the forums on the site how you're improving on it. Thank you all for joining us. I'm just gonna hang out with some of the ones here. We might still be live here. Maybe I'll just keep it live for a few, but feel free to drop out if you guys prefer. For those that do, thanks for joining us. Troy, do you have a question? I thought somebody, maybe somebody opened or raised their hand. Anybody here want to tell us where they're from, how long they've been playing for? All right, it's Brian, please.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Sure can. How you doing?
Oh, okay. Oh, hi. Just fine. I played when I was younger, and I started back playing about a year ago. And
Okay.
just in seeing your how you grab the violin, that four-step process, I think I'm just not holding my fingers high enough. My normal hold is like this, and if I do what you showed, boy, I'd be a lot higher. And in that position, I could see making that motion a lot easier. So yeah, I have a feeling I'll just practice scales in that position. You know, just try to get it higher, and I think that'll help.
Cool. Where are you from?
I live in San Jose, California, but I'm originally from Michigan.
Hey, Michigan. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
We're in Michigan.
Yep. Lansing.
Gotcha.
Lansing.
Very cool. Yeah, Grand Rapids here.
Okay. Okay. There you go.
Thanks for. Thanks
Well,
for.
I will be here next week.
Well,
But
all right.
I
We'll
have to
see.
go and have dinner now.
See you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking of as he was saying that was as students are playing on the E string, I find students really have their hands away from the fingerboard, which naturally, okay, do you guys see where my pinky is right now? I'm on the E string. Naturally, I have to bring my hands over to find the G, see what my hand has to do that. Okay, so if instead on the E string I actually have my fingers more clamped back, like it should be like this, now I just have to reach my 4 out without moving my hand, see? So now I can actually vibrato on the G. So yeah, this effort going from here to here, that's causing you guys problems, most likely. I see that all the time with students. Cool. All right. James, would you mind saying hello? We have to unmute yourself. I can probably do it for you.
I got it.
Hey, all right. Tell us where you're from, how long you've been playing for, and anything else.
Well, I'm still from Augusta, Georgia, and I've been playing about 2 years. My problem is when trying to do this is I feel like I'm rotating my hand away from the neck of the violin rather than you make it seem so easy just going straight back and forth. But if I get my fingers at the right angle, it feels like I got to open my hand up.
So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, easier said than done. But yeah, trying to bring this, really focusing right here, and just trying to force that hand to come in and out. If you're having trouble opening up, most likely that means that you have too much pressure into the strings. Because if you overpress here, if this is really tense and you're trying to open, naturally the hand opens up.
Yeah,
So that's why you have to minimize that.
Yeah, I tend to. I'm fighting pressing down too much.
So yeah, focus on that very, very edge of the finger right before the nail. That should really help. Maybe to start with one finger.
Okay.
Cool. All right, I want to see some progress next week. Thank you. All right, Eric, anything from you? Can you tell us how your vibrato progress is going and where you're from?
Well, I'm from Canada, from the province of Quebec, so my English is not very good. I'm sorry for that. I've been playing violin since something like 3 years. The practice of vibrato, I say that it's very long for me. I think I'm getting a little better. I wouldn't say that it's very it's really a vibrato, but I'm doing more kind of slow waves, and sometimes I can try to do it with the fourth finger, but it's challenging. It's challenging.
Good. Well, it's good to see you playing again and joining the Hangouts again. So always good to see you.
thank you very much, and thank you for your classes.
What music are you working on? I see sheet music background.
Oh, it's been a long time. I'm repeating the Suzuki number 5.
Ah, okay.
I've been 1 year with it, and I've tried also studies in 3rd and 5th position and studies from Wolfart. This has been the last year. So
Great.
thank
Great.
you.
Well, I hope to see you next week.
Thank you. I plan to be there.
So, Elizabeth, could you just tell us more about your teacher that you have, or just your progress that you're trying to make, your goals, anything?
Well, the teacher I have, her name is Susie Perkins. She's been teaching me violin, and she's also my Alexander technique professor.
Okay.
So while I've been in the class, I've also been doing Alexander technique, and it's helping me with my back posture. And I can tell that as I'm sitting, I'm getting taller. I'm, getting into the professional stance, which I didn't have in high school and middle school. It was just you sit in those junky chairs, and now it's like get into the classical formation, and it's like it's a totally new person that I'm becoming.
That's great. How'd you?
So.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So Susie, she's been teaching me slowly the classical stuff, and recently I just did Gavotte in G minor as my jury, which is like your performance final exam. And I did a tiny piece called Donna Nobis, and right now I'm trying to go into Le Sequentaine, the famous, or what I think is famous piano and violin duet. Very common.
Very nice.
So I know that in that piece there are some vibrato things, and I'm trying to learn how to better improve my vibrato, since I would say my vibrato is like, beginning high school level.
Yeah, and I could actually apply that song maybe to some of the things we talked about. So the Gavotte in G minor, right? This one? That one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of flats in there, right? It's in the key of B flat, I think. So, or G minor. It's in G minor.
Yeah.
G minor. But it's same key.
Yeah, G minor.
Same key as B flat. Okay. So yeah, as you're playing flats, you might be at this angle, whereas you're kind of in and out a little bit, to where it's hard to really get that vibrato. So I would really recommend squeezing back those B flats, right? So then. You get that vibrato on that D. Right here, make sure as you're doing that low one that you're not opened up there. Get that nice vibrato on that C.
Now, how would you do that bowing pattern for the long short piece, that long short part in that song that you just did?
Which at the beginning of the piece, or?
Yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da. It's yeah.
Portato.
Yeah, that.
Lato portato, yeah. Like you're not doing it this way, right? You're not going. Yeah.
alternate the bow. I just go one direction for that. Is it better going down or is it better going up?
So, right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the bowing offhand. That's always how I've done it, but probably you could do either way. I think separate's fine. I will just start like each phrase right here, down bow. Right there for that low 1-1, are you actually leaving your finger down on both strings?
I probably might be.
What's that?
I might be. I'm trying not to though.
So what you should try there, this would be really good. If you play low one, low one double stop, and then if you're able to stop and freeze there and still play a 4 on the G, that would be like the most ideal circumstance. So that part, double stop, 4. That means your hand's in the perfect position.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I would actually show you the way that I do my stuff, but my violin's in the locker and I'm in the dorm room at the moment. So I guess I'll have to do that next week and show you, because I will be attending next week. I will, promise.
All right, sweet, sweet. Yeah, I hope to see you. Thanks for participating.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I've had these questions for the whole month of January, and you know, the way that school is, you have 4 classes in the fall, January is its own term, and then in the spring, that's how it is at Salem. So it's like, I didn't have violin at all in January, so it was like, it's all on me. I'm like, but I have questions. Who do I go to?
Definitely help out. And yeah, hope to have you participate with the site. So hopefully you check out the forum and the community area. We'd love to have you in there as well.
I've been watching the videos. They're very, very helpful.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to getting back into these classes, and hope most of you guys that are watching right now will be here next week. And yeah, the goal is to just help you guys out and give you guys as many tips as possible. So yeah, come prepared with questions next week. We'll be doing more vibrato stuff. I'm going to kind of go into detail about kind of more of the ins and outs regarding the right hand. So there's actually a lot of things that are important to get a really good vibrato related to the right hand. I didn't really mention anything about right hand today. And also how you phrase vibrato. So instead of just doing, that's fine, but there's also a way to really phrase your vibrato. A lot of that tone, a lot of that has to do with what I'm doing here. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
If you're doing wrist vibrato, how do you make sure your wrist does not have tension?
Really, everything that I talked about today relates to that. So, I mean, forearm vibrato really is the same concept as wrist regarding the flexibility. So, as I'm doing this, I'm not stiff here. Just like I'm shaking somebody's hand, I'm not stiff. Right? I'm just shaking, right? Everything's working together.
It's very loose.
There's no tension. Yeah, everything's very loose. So you can easily just grab my hand and my arm. Same thing for wrist. No difference.
Okay.
Cool. Well, maybe I'll just quick give you guys a little tour of my shop. Some of you guys that are still watching, you guys must enjoy watching and maybe want to get to know me a little better. So yeah, I'll give you guys a little kind of tour here. So yeah, this is my shop. You can see I have lots of instruments. I have lots of cases where I kind of show people violins. I come locally. I got lots of bows. As you guys can see, I have, actually I was bringing the computer over. So I have a lot of bows. So yeah, these are all my cases. You can see I have a lot of cases. Sorry for the semi-mess. So yeah, whenever I ship an instrument out, I choose a case for people to get their violins in. And then yeah, we worked on this wall here, so we actually built this where we could actually hang the violins. So this is I'm actually in my basement right now though. So my upstairs is kind of the personal area, then the downstairs is the shop. So here's my office. It's nice and messy, as you can see. A couple electric violins on the floor. I'm shipping those out tomorrow. We're actually on the lake, so you can't really see right now, but everything back there's a lake, so we really enjoy being on the lake. Let's see, what else? Got violins kind of shipping out soon. What else? Show you guys my back room. I have lots of violins. So those are all repair violins, stuff that I actually need to set up in some way. They could be returns from students. So yeah, I also have more on the table. I stay pretty busy. Got some cellos. I got all the accessory stuff I give away for for prizes and stuff. Those are all up here. So you know, like cool hangers for violin. Lego toys. iPhone covers. Cool stuff, huh? Violin wallet purse. Is that something that interests you, Elizabeth? Okay. And then my cat just randomly runs around everywhere. Here's the view from the back. So as you can see on my boxes, that's stuff that comes in from customers. So they, you know, send me a return violin or whatever. I got to open those up tomorrow. And then if you look all the way in the back, that's where I did the class today. And that's also where I teach private lessons. So I'll show you guys the shipping room here. So I still have more violins. You can see, kind of endless. I have over 200 instruments right now. So this is where we do all the shipments, all the accessories for students that buy, you know, rosins and stuff like that. This is where we keep all that stuff. I got my Fiddle for Dummies book back here. We have about 50 of those, so I'm the author of that book. Got some bows on the wall. My assistant's been breaking down all the boxes. So we got these boxes right here. This is actually what we ship instruments out in. So she puts those together for us. More cases. These are used cases. So yeah, that's kind of the tour. My wife teaches piano, so we do have a piano down here. I'm not good at piano. I can play a couple very basic tunes. You guys want to hear a tune? All right, not very good. Whoops, I forgot the last part. I don't even know if you guys can hear that okay, but yeah, I'm not very good at piano. I'm okay. Yeah, and that's how you get back, that's how you get to the upstairs. So I wish I could show you guys the outside with the lake and stuff, but obviously it's dark here right now, so. Cool. All right, hope you enjoyed the tour. So Elizabeth, yeah, if you want to check out my site, I have that wallet on there. Maybe that's something that you could get. It's, I think, like 20 or 30 bucks. But yeah, superiorviolins.com if you want to check it out. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks, James. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Elizabeth, for hanging out. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys hopefully next week. Send me an email, anybody, if you guys have any questions. Michael@superiorviolins.com. Have a good day, guys. Thanks for joining us. See you next week. Don't practice too hard. Practice, not just, I was going to say, practice right. Don't practice too hard. Practice right. All right, see you guys.